I call the Honourable John Banks.
Very novel. Pleased to be working with the Minister of Finance, and very happy that Dr. Norman and his printing press are not around the chairs of the persons of public expenditure. Now, what we're looking at today, of course, and considering is an excess in spending and a structural deficit that the government has had to deal with. A structural deficit that the Minister has had to grapple with. The report shows spending growth must be held to 2% per annum to restore a fiscal surplus by 2014-2015. Holding spending growth at 2% is tough, whereas for the last decade spending growth has averaged 8% a year. Spending growth in this economy has averaged 8% a year over the last 10 years. It needs to be brought back to 2% a year. It doesn't make sense that every day, every week, every month, every year we borrow from savings from offshore to spend locally on programs that we simply can't sustain, we've never been able to afford, and not as good for investment, growth and jobs. So we're still cleaning up, for instance, Labor's Kiwi rail mess with a $6.6 billion in value of the network being written off today. $6.6 billion in value in the network being written off today. We're still dealing with that legacy. As someone who has been in business for 50 years, all I can tell you is you only get a Dr. Cullen as a buyer once in a lifetime, Minister. Once in a lifetime. So here is where the country needs to go. We need top-down control of expenditure, like Act spending cap measure. We need spending cap measures so that we do not have to borrow every day, every week, every month from the savings of others to fund expenditure programs we simply cannot afford. We need much more rigorous programs by program scrutiny. This Parliament needs to, line by line and program by program, scrutinise every single piece of expenditure on its worth. We need to do much better asking questions, much better asking if programs satisfy the OEC's basic 5 questions. The basic 5 questions that the OEC puts to us and the Minister is prescribing to are these. Does the program still serve a clearly defined public purpose? Is it an appropriate role for government? Would we establish the program today if it did not already exist? Is it desirable to maintain it at current levels? And can it be delivered more effectively or more efficiently right now? And that's the slide rule that the OEC put across all expenditure programs, and we should be doing it today because it makes sense and they're timeless propositions. So this is the wrap-up, Mr. Speaker. The Finance and Expenditure report observes that we can look forward to only moderate growth of 2 to 3% and continuing high unemployment. Moderate growth, continuing high unemployment, and the other side of the Parliament wants to continue to borrow, to tax and to spend. That's the proposition coming from the other side of the House. Borrow, tax and spend. If we want to grow faster, get more investment and more employment, we have to reduce the burden on the private sector. So we should pass the slide rule over all regulation coming through this House on the private sector. Is it good for or is it bad for investment, growth and jobs? If it's bad for, don't do it. If it's good for, we get onto it. Investment, growth and jobs. This means less wasteful or unnecessary spending, lower taxes and less red tape and regulation. Do you hear that from the other side of the House? How often have you heard it from the other side of the House? We never hear it. So this means, Mr. Speaker, less wasteful and unnecessary spending, lower taxes and less red tape and regulation. And I'm pleased to be in partnership with this Minister of Finance in this National Act-led government who are committed to less government, lower taxes, more opportunity, world-class education and jobs for everyone, and a growing economy that pays its way, and all regulation is tested in this House to see if it's necessary, and if it's not necessary, you don't want to know about it, because we are committed to a program of getting this country back into surplus and paying its way so that we don't have to borrow from the savings of other citizens of other countries every day, every week, every month to make ends meet. Mr. Speaker, I finish as I began. We need more investment, growth and jobs, and this minister is in charge of that.
I call the Honourable David Parker. Now,